Hi, my name is Erica Malinowski. I am co-president of Soma Action, and with me today will be JT Sturm, who is one of our Board of Trustee members, who will be helping ask questions. Soma Action is a grassroots organization dedicated to driving progressive change. As part of that, we put out voter guides for every election, interviewing and sometimes evaluating candidates about their support for issues our committees are working on. There are many important issues facing our county, but for this interview, the questions are restricted to only those areas where Soma Actions committees have done at least as much work as we would be asking the candidates to do. If you notice that important topics are missing, and they are, we encourage you to reach out to candidates to ask about them and also to join a committee and help expand our work. Today, we're joined by Christine McGrath, a candidate for Essex County Board of Commissioners. Christine, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this opportunity.
So our first question is just, could you please introduce yourself and tell us why you're running for Board of County Commissioners?
Well, thank you. Thank you to both of you and to all of Soma Action for your hard work and advocacy. My name is Christine McGrath. I am currently a councilwoman and former deputy mayor of Verona for the last 6 years. For over the last 15 years, I've had many roles: volunteer leader, grassroots organizer, advocate, councilwoman, and deputy mayor. I have developed deep relationships with other advocates, volunteers, and elected officials from across Essex County. In Verona, I led our volunteer resident advocacy to renovate our library and to add an elevator to ensure accessibility for all residents. I co-founded Verona Fights Hunger Week, an effort that fills a moving truck full of food to benefit local food pantries. And from that work, I served on the board of the Human Needs Food Pantry of Montclair, assisting thousands of residents with basic needs. After the horrific tragedy of the Pulse nightclub shooting, I became co-leader of the Essex County chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. I collaborated closely with the Soma chapter and helped to integrate the two groups. I planned awareness events throughout the county. I supported the Newark Community Street Team. I rallied volunteers to Trenton to advocate for bills that were signed into law. And I got involved in my first political campaign for Mikey Sherrill back in 2018. I ran independently for a seat on Verona's nonpartisan council in May of 2019. I ran my own campaign of volunteers and was supported with grassroots donations from Verona residents. I knocked myself on over 1,000 doors, and I won a competitive 5-way race, which included beating 2 incumbents. My platform was a promise to the residents of Verona that I would keep them informed on what the council was doing so that residents could provide input before key decisions were being made, and I delivered on that promise. On the Verona Council, I have built a record of communicating and listening to residents, bringing people together, turning ideas into action, and making sure local government is responsive and accountable. I was reelected in 2023, and I'm the only woman ever to be the top vote getter in 2 Verona elections. I'm running for Essex County Commissioner at Large because I believe county government works best when it partners with our municipalities and stays focused on what matters most, which is the people that we serve. If elected, I'm going to bring my energetic, collaborative leadership that I've demonstrated in Verona to the county level, working with officials from across Essex to address affordability and in our communities. Thank you, and I'm so excited for this conversation.
Thank you. Could you tell us about what the county commissioners do and what would be your top 3 priorities as a commissioner?
Well, this is the top question that I get all the time. What do county commissioners do? Well, they are basically a supersized version of what our local government does. They are responsible for approving the budget that the county executive brings forth. They're responsible for setting fees for things like our parks and services, setting ordinances or rules that govern county facilities. They approve all contracts. They approve all major projects. They have to approve whether or not debt is issued. So this is something that I'm experienced with serving on the local level, but it would just be supersized at the county level. Some of the priorities I have and what I really believe the commissioners should be are that voice that understands what's happening on the ground. There's 9 of us, and we should be integrated into our communities, understanding the challenges, not only from our residents, especially with affordability, but the challenges our municipalities and local school districts are facing, which are quite numerous. And then bringing those challenges back up to the county level. And for me personally, this is my skill set and what I would like to bring to county government. And that clear communication style is my top priority.
Two more priorities?
Well, embedded in that are things or issues that are really important to me. I'm very concerned about the cuts to federal funding that are happening and that are going to take place mainly next year, both to SNAP and Medicaid. So I think a key priority of all the commissioners is how are we going to manage the impact of those cuts and try to mitigate negative consequences for our residents. I'm also very passionate about safety. So I'm going to have priorities not only in gun violence prevention, which is still a key passion of mine, but in pedestrian safety as well. I think one of the things I know as a local official and what I hear from around the country, around the county, is that we want to make sure we feel safe driving our cars, walking, and biking across the county. And I know that's really important for the residents. And so that would be another key area of focus.
Thank you. Currently, even residents who are very civically engaged don't know much about what county commissioners do and don't hear from their commissioners very much. What would you do to make sure that residents know what services you and the county are providing and that you're accountable to your constituents?
Well, again, this is something that I do very well in Verona. So, what I do currently for Verona is I have my own website, ChristineMcGrathVerona.com, and I write a summary after every single meeting on what Verona government, what we talked about, decisions that we made, and decisions that were forthcoming. And this style of communicating is something that I want to bring to the commissioner level. It's important not only to communicate through social media, through email, newsletters, but also have a permanent source of information that county residents can go to understand their issues. I think there can be improvements made to the websites and information that's posted publicly. I know in Verona, I worked hard to ensure that we maintained virtual access to meetings and two-way communication in our meetings. And that's one way that residents love to stay informed because they can participate in a public meeting from home, and making sure that everything is publicized and residents know what those key decisions that are upcoming and how to comment. And another important vehicle, something that has started with the Board of Commissioners and the county, but I would love to see more of, is resident surveying. I think when you ask for feedback on projects, you can get some really great ideas. And I know in Verona, we implemented for some of our key challenges, for example, with our pool utility, the things that we heard directly from residents. And I want to continue that process in the county level.
Thank you. There's been a lot of concern about machine politics in state and county government, as in New Jersey, specifically conflicts of interest, corruption, and lawmakers who are accountable to party bosses instead of to their constituents. What's your assessment of how significant a problem this is, and what would you like to see done about it?
Well, this is something that I've heard a lot. And in Verona, when we have major contracts, the contractors have to declare what donations they've made, if they've made any donations to political parties, and to any of the individuals on the council. So for me, I think transparency and really making information public is the best way to kind of address this situation. My perception of the problem, I won't really know until I get into the details of the contracts and who's getting them, what the contracting process looks like. But as long as we ensure that we are following what the laws are in the state, which is really important. And there are strict rules around how contracts are given out. I think that would be one way that we would ensure that the residents are reassured that contracts and services are given out in an appropriate manner. I know as someone who has worked hard on transparency, this would be something that I would continue the conversation with residents to make sure they also felt comfortable.
Thank you. Nationally, we're seeing an uptick in attacks on voting rights and threats that Trump might attempt to interfere with or disrupt elections. What do you see as your role as a county commissioner to help ensure our elections run smoothly and without interference?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, it's important that we have the right funding and priorities set with the Essex County Clerk, who currently is Chris Durkin. Funding is going to be key going forward to make sure that he has enough resources to fully communicate with residents their voting rights, how the voting process works, and support also of the governor as she is defending these attacks on our democracy. I do hope we can expand voting and not succumb to the pressure that we're facing right now nationally to curtail it with proposals that are just preposterous, like the SAVE Act, which would actually roll back my voting rights because I'm a woman who got married and changed my name after I got married. I would actually like to see New Jersey advance voting rights, things like same-day voter registration, which is something that I think would benefit us all. And I have been a huge proponent of vote by mail. I vote by mail myself. And in Verona, through my work leading the Verona Democratic Committee, I've actually worked to expand early voting as well to ensure that Verona residents take advantage of these early voting opportunities, which I think is really important. So in Verona, a lot of our residents now, over 50% of them are actually voting before Election Day. So I'm a big supporter of expanding voting rights. And a lot of that is through communication, getting actually more people to vote by mail. And I hope working with the legislature to expand to get same-day voter registration.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it over to JT now to ask the second set of questions.
Great. ICE has been kidnapping our residents, holding them in inhumane conditions in Delaney Hall and leaving families unable to meet their basic needs due to loss of income and crushing legal fees. What will you advocate for the county to do to help support our immigrant residents, especially those impacted by kidnappings, detentions, and deportations?
Thank you so much for this very important question. It is a really disturbing time. I really believe in good government and I'm passionate about it. And to see the federal government doing the opposite and sort of breaking down that trust that government can be a force of good is really disturbing to me and the impact on our families. And so I think there's a couple of things. One is the county touches residents in so many different ways. Are we utilizing all of those touch points to make sure we're giving out factual legal information, for example, about their rights, how they can access resources? And so I would love to understand better if we're maximizing all of those communication channels. Secondly, how are we addressing the needs of the volunteers on the ground that are working in Delaney Hall? I recently visited. I saw their robust operation and spoke to some residents who were protesting that day. But how can we listen to those residents and do more? I know the county has made great strides by setting up a permanent shelter and the temporary shelter in the tent, and working with the volunteers to make sure that they can park their cars as best as it's feasible. But are there more things that we can do with those community groups? Everything about the way I approach governing is really listening to the people who are doing the work, because again, they often have the solutions that are important. And so I am looking at those sort of issues in terms of communication touch points and making sure that information is getting out to really support these residents. And one last thing, to make sure laws are being followed. So those conditions inside Delaney Hall, does the county have any laws on the books that can be applied there? I think that's an important analysis if they haven't done it already, because again, the health conditions in that facility are of great concern to me.
How can county and municipalities collaborate to promote environmental sustainability, protect green spaces, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and increase resilience to climate change?
That's a big question. So I think this is where the county can really be a leadership role, because these are very overwhelming issues. Whether we're seeing the impact of climate change, like even in intense storms, which impacted Verona and many other communities, like with Hurricane Ida, or even just a thunderstorm in August, can really do great damage. And we're seeing that because of climate change. In Verona, I've had the pleasure of serving as the council liaison to both the Environmental Commission, our Sustainable Verona group, and the Shade Tree Commission. And we've used data and analysis to help advance our agenda. For example, doing a heat map analysis, and then from there, developing a shade tree planting program so we can address some of our heat centers in our community. So I think the county can really help play a role in doing some of the strategic work that is out of bounds from local communities. Let me give you one example that I'm passionate about and will be interested to explore should I be elected as commissioner, and that is addressing our food waste. So we know that New Jersey has passed some laws on the books to address food waste so that we can dispose of it properly and more environmentally. And so it doesn't go into an incinerator, which is again, or to a dump where it's actually contributing to climate change. So can the county play a role in helping municipalities figure out how to develop waste management programs on this issue? Because I will tell you from a local point of view, while there's some great pilots that are happening across the county and in communities, and they're partnering with some private vendors, we do need to get a public solution to what I consider to be a very important issue. But if you can take that kind of county strategic approach where they have the resources maybe to do the studies to figure out how to tackle these big problems, we can go and move on to other areas as well, from just one example. So I think the county plays a key role because again, they have the size and the scope more than what the local municipalities have to address these very difficult issues.
What do you support doing to help ensure that cyclists and pedestrians can travel freely and safely through Essex County? Throughout Essex County.
That's also a very passionate question for mine. So I currently serve on Verona's Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee, and I'm blessed to serve with an advocate on that committee who is a cyclist advocate for statewide, which is wonderful. So one thing as I've gotten to know through this committee what the county is doing is that a lot of residents don't realize what the county is doing and how long the process takes to tap into mostly federal grants, but also state grants to make some of these transit projects a reality. So it really starts with good planning and having a diversified team of residents and municipal leaders from the communities and from organizations that want to promote things like biking on the ground in the planning stages to figure out how to make this happen. In Verona, for example, one of our traffic lights that's being installed this spring was announced back in COVID and the planning was starting on years before that. So these are very long timelines. So if we want more biking in the township, the key is to get the planning right in the beginning, and to make sure that everyone's at the table. In addition, I have right here, I printed out before this meeting, the Essex County 2045 strategic plan on transportation, and there's 14 priorities. in there, one of which is biking. So again, how are we taking our strategic plans and actualizing them, communicating with residents and advocates on where we are on a multi-year process, so that we can show that progress is being made. And again, the residents have really good ideas, so it's about setting up the mechanisms to make sure that the county government is actually listening.
As healthcare costs skyrocket, what can the county do to help ensure that healthcare is accessible and affordable for all residents, particularly immigrants, the uninsured, and trans residents?
Oh, that's a good question, because one of my top concerns is the driving healthcare costs on our local governments, including our school districts, the county government itself, and our local municipalities. You can't open up a newspaper today without seeing that we're having budget concerns on the local and even county level because of rising healthcare costs. And then to layer on top what the cuts that are going to happen with Medicaid coming down the pike, it's going to have a huge impact on every resident from an individual level. Of particular concern is what's going to happen to our hospital system. Just read an article about that this week as well. Hospitals are at risk for closing because of these Medicaid cutbacks, and there could be a lack of access to even basic medical services. So there's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done, and a lot of communication. I don't have the answers on that because it's actually going to be, I think, something very difficult. But where Essex County benefits is that we have a lot of amazing state legislators that are in the county that touch the county. It appears there's some great partners in the health systems that have done public-private partnerships, both at the county level, in Newark, in other municipalities. And we're going to have to pull every single creative thing out of our toolkit to really address this rising crisis, which is here now, but will only explode once these Medicaid cuts take hold. But again, one of the reasons I'm running for office is I believe really strongly that if we kind of involve the local municipalities of residents, nonprofit groups, and different advocates on the ground, we can make progress on some of these most difficult issues. So it all comes back to being very clear with communicating what the challenge is and really seeking a broad base of evidence on what the solution could be.
Last question. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about that we haven't covered so far?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think, one of the things that I'm really excited about is the fact that this Essex County Board of Commissioners is really meant to be its own legislative body with its own legislative agenda. And there's going to be so many new members on the board with diverse experience. And so I really look at this as an opportunity that we have a chance to really put in good government, and for the residents to understand that county government is really important. We have some great open spaces that I want to ensure that we continue to protect and grow. We have amazing park systems, and I know residents really enjoy those spaces, but what we're really focused on is the people investment, right? So how do we create economic opportunity? How do we preserve jobs? How do we promote good union jobs? How do we protect the diversity of our county, which will only grow more diverse? Things like affordable housing. There's a lot of challenges ahead. And I'm really excited, though, to see the Essex County Board of Commissioners play a role that is more vocal, more communicative, and really more present in some of these key issues that are both positive and negative. Upcoming, but I think represent real opportunities for some fresh thinking. So that's what I'm really excited about. And I hope I get the opportunity to serve on this new Essex County Board of Commissioners.
Great.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with us.
Yes, I really enjoyed the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Great. We'll look forward to seeing you around.
Okay, thank you.